Welcome, everybody. My name is Abiodun Adetu, host of Naija Market Day. And today we are having the much anticipated workshop. It's supposed to be a full day event because we have loads of questions on our mind, especially pertaining to, food, our kind of food, and probably going to special events or starting business here and there. We have in the house with us today, Chelsea Lindsay, and Victor Aduayi. Thank you very much for joining us. And
Thank you. Would you like us to get started
yeah.
or you let us know?
Because we have loads of questions, so and I know as we go on, some of these questions will be answered. So, but if your question is not answered, we'll leave about 15 minutes after the presentation to answer any questions you have. And then with that, we'll take it from there. Let's get into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just give me a moment and I'll share the presentation and then we can get started.
It's better for us, better for me too.
Please let's ensure we are all muted. Thank you.
Okay, is everyone able to see the presentation and hear me okay? All right, so as we were introduced, I'm Chelsea Lindsay with Manitoba Health. And Victor Aduaye with Manitoba Health. We're both public health inspectors with the Health Protection Unit. So we will be giving a presentation today on how to become a food vendor at a temporary food market. So this focus of the event will mainly be on the special events portion of some of the programs that we do. We could also answer further questions following the presentation. But with that being said, we can get started. So our presentation outline today will be on food markets. So the guideline review, they're called farmers markets in all of our documentation, but we also reference them as food markets because farmers markets doesn't really envelop all that we're speaking about. Secondly, we'll be going into the market coordinator responsibilities, registering for the market, the health permit that's required, and then all about food vendors. So that's our low risk food vendors and high risk food vendors, which we'll talk about both separately. Following, we'll speak briefly on the certified food handler training, and then we will get into that question and answer period. So the Health Protection Unit, we are basically our mission is to protect the health of Manitobans through education and intervention strategies designed to reduce the health risks to the public. So in the simplest words, our team is part of preventative health. We not only do food inspections, but we also do housing, pools, childcare, any health hazards. So there's an array of program areas that we do. Most commonly known to the public is that we are in restaurants doing inspections, but there's a lot more to it. There is a link below, which is our Health Protection Unit website, which kind of encompasses and speaks towards more of those program areas, as well as any documentation we speak to or are linked in this presentation can be found on the website as well. So let's get into it. So we'll talk about the farmers market or temporary food market. I will be referring to it as a temporary food market for the remainder of the presentation. Okay, so the temporary food market guidelines or farmers market guidelines. So what is a temporary food market? It is all about food sales. So this may be selling foods to the public at an event that takes place over a day, over a weekend, or throughout the summer is what's most commonly seen. All markets that are in Manitoba must be approved by and receive a permit to operate from a public health inspector. So there are guidelines that must be followed in order to put on a market, and that guideline is made from our food and food handling establishment regulation. So these are requirements for putting on a market in Manitoba. So the market coordinator, so this is the person who is responsible for ensuring that the market is organized, designed, operated, and maintained in accordance with guidelines which come from our regulations. So this coordinator is responsible for registering and for the operating permit. So that's who the permit will be issued to. And this person oversees the temporary food market vendors at the special events. So essentially, the food market coordinator is our main contact with public health. We speak directly with them. Any questions regarding vendors, we will speak to vendors after the fact, as in calling or emailing them. But in terms of registration forms, all forms are submitted to the market coordinator, who then submits them to us. So it's kind of a one-way street in that, or a two-way street between us and the coordinator. That's just to prevent any type of administrative errors, to make sure everything is streamlined and the market coordinator is in the loop with everything going on. So like I spoke about previously, so the registration of the market. So the market coordinator would review those guidelines that are on our website, or you can always request them from us directly. They are required to submit that registration form at least 14 working days before the starting of the market. The reason for this is to ensure that the review and administration part of the market is completed within a decent time frame. When we get markets that come in just a couple days before, they may not be accepted by public health because it just depends on the size of that market, of course. The market coordinator also solicits vendors, so they need to understand who needs permits, and that's something that your public health inspector can also answer. They also provide the list of vendors and food products to the public health inspector and updates the public health inspector with that list of vendors and the food products that they are beginning. So this and all information that comes from the public health inspector needs to be clearly communicated with the vendor so that everybody is on the same page and understanding of what is required the day of the event. So this is a copy of our temporary food market registration form. It is very small on the screen. However, they can be accessed through our website. So this is the form that comes from the coordinator that must be completed and submitted. The form just talks about like address, contact information about the market as well. There'll be a second form on the next slide, which I will speak more towards, which then lists your vendors and what foods and information they'll be providing the day of the event. So this is a form that we ask is completed fully, a minimum of 14 working days before the event. And you can always submit this a lot earlier. We have pretty large scale events in the city with hundreds of vendors. They start submitting their forms sometimes a month to 3 months ahead of time just to get the process started. So the second part of the form is the vendor list. So this has a nice little chart on it, which outlines what information we expect to know about the event vendor, and it kind of helps keep you organized as well. So requirements include such as the business name, the address where food is being prepared, do they have an existing permit, as well as the contact name, phone number, and email of the vendor. And then the last column, most importantly, what products do they plan on bringing that day? Part of our review is also to determine which foods and vendors are low and high risk, and do those vendors have the correct permitting for that to actually work at the event. So the food vendor is a person who rents or leases a stall or space at a farmer's market for the purpose of displaying or offering their product for sale. The food vendor may or may not require their own permit the day of the event, depending on the types of food they will be selling. So a big thing is always to check with your local public health inspector if your food item is not listed in the farmer's market guidelines. In the guidelines, there is a page that shows foods that are low risk and high risk, basically, which are allowed and not allowed at the event based on the permit that you have. So speaking about low risk and high risk foods, also known as potentially hazardous foods, they're basically any foods that are given the right conditions, whether that be time, temperature, and moistness. It's essentially foods that support the growth of pathogens. This is a bit more scientific in detail, but we can get into example of what type of foods those are. If you're not sure if a food is potentially hazardous, there are different ways to actually get food tested or just to know. So big indicators are, do these foods need to be cold held in a refrigerator under 5 degrees Celsius? Do they need to be hot held above 60 degrees Celsius when you are actually having these foods at these markets? So those are the big indicators. I won't get into too much on this slide as it goes into more scientific detail, but the next slide is a bit more helpful in knowing which foods and what vendors, the two different types of vendors at a food market. So the two type of vendors at a food market are non-potentially hazardous foods or potentially hazardous foods. So your non-potentially hazardous foods includes things such as, but not limited to, breads, cookies, vegetables, jams. So operators that will, these are operators that will work under what we call the market permit. So this is issued directly to the coordinator, and we allow non-potentially hazardous foods to be made at home. If you have questions about if your food is potentially hazardous or not, you can always speak with the public health inspector or your market coordinator to get that information for you. The second type is potentially hazardous foods. So this is any type of meats, dairies, eggs, refrigerated or frozen items. So these vendors require their own permit, meaning that you must have a food facility such as a restaurant or a small scale operator to bring these types of foods to a market. So you have to have already been previously permitted before the event to be able to bring these to any type of temporary event. And then these foods must be made in a permitted facility. The big thing is these foods cannot be made at home. They're prohibited to be made at home and to be sold to the public. So essentially, this slide just goes over market vendors who prepare non-potentially hazardous foods, such as low-risk foods, are limited to food handling and can prepare foods at home and sell only at registered markets. So you can't sell these to online or have people come pick them up from your home. So these are only to be sold at markets, and they cannot be sold basically online, retail stores, or to restaurants or other businesses. You are only limited to the farmers markets or temporary markets. So high risk foods, I know the screen calls it small scale food processors. You could be a small scale food processor, just a name for someone who makes food in a commercial kitchen. So for potentially hazardous foods that are made in a commercial kitchen and the operator has their own health permit, they may sell their food at a farmer's market, to retail stores, to restaurants, and or online. So non-potentially hazardous foods made in a commercial kitchen and the operator has their own health permit, they may sell their food at a farmer's market. Essentially the same thing. As long as you're a permitted facility, you have a bit more jurisdiction for selling your foods outside of farmer's market. you could do both. You could sell them from your facility or at markets. So I will be passing the rest of the presentation off to Victor, and he will share his screen and he will speak more towards the temporary food service establishments at these events.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. If you have questions, remember you can drop them in the chat. We'll still go through the questions we had submitted previously as well. Over to you, Victor.
Okay, yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Victor. I'll be talking about temporary food service establishments. This is really what you get or what you apply for if you are going for an event. Commonly, when you're going for an event, but as Chelsea also mentioned, if you are at a food market or a farmer's market and you're selling things that are potentially hazardous, then you will need to apply for this permit. But generally, if you have an event and you want to come and serve your food on site, it involves dishing out, our like rice or pasta, something that has already been prepared in a facility, a permitted facility. Then you have to apply for a temporary food services permit. So so usually you have to you have a guideline for this. It's more detailed. It tells you exactly what you should pay attention to, because once you are outside your facility, your permitted facility, there's a higher risk of cross contamination and what you are preparing or selling, having spreading like infections and getting contaminated by bugs. So you want to be careful. Go through the guideline. It states it focuses really on the loopholes and tells operators to pay attention to that. One very important thing is the hand wash station. Generally in worldwide, but in Canada, most outbreaks have been linked to poor hand hygiene. And the guideline also tries to be very flexible. So these pictures here just shows, like an improvised hand wash station. And you have jerry cans or containers that have, you can just fill with water, get a table to place it on. You should have a disposable or single-use paper towel to wipe your hands. You need your soap to be also present on the table. Then you need a bucket to collect the wastewater. And you're not to dispose of this wastewater on the ground or the floor. Yes, you should always talk to your coordinator. They usually have where you will dispose this wastewater. Usually it's going to be the municipal wastewater system. Yeah, so the hand wash station is very important. And very important is when applying for a permit, particularly a temporary food service permit, you need to do that quite early, minimum 14 days. Send your application in, because we need to go through your menu, and there are times we get to educate the operator or to enlighten the operator on the hazards that are inherent in their food and guide them in their setup. So when you apply early, that gives the health inspector time to really help you out and advise you on what to do. At times, they may advise you to cut down your menu if they feel the setup is not adequate. And as I said, the application form is also linked to the guidelines, so it's all on the website. And very important for those applying for TFSCs, as temporary food services permits, you must not prepare food at home. You are supposed to have a permitted food facility linked to your establishment, You can't just say, oh, I'm going to prepare food from home and bring it to this event. No, it's a no. So that's the key message for operators wanting to be part of events. Apply early and make sure you prepare all your food at the permitted food facility. Okay, now on site as well, you are not allowed to cut products, no chopping, no mixing of food, no slicing of plantain to like fried dodo on site, no chopping of veggies, no. All that should be done, prepped at the facility and stored adequately at the right temperature. Then you just bring everything to the site. And if you need to fry on the site or grill on the site, there are other requirements for that, but we do not want you to actively prepare chopped vegetables on site because of the risk of contamination. So do everything in your facility, package it, store it in the cooling unit, fridge or freezer. It's best keep it frozen, bring it to the event the following day. So I know at times you want to, like, you are coming to an event, you have fish prepared. You don't prepare the fish a day before and just bring it. If you're going to prepare it a day before, you must store it adequately in a cooling unit and bring it to site. Okay. So at times you may want to come to an event and be involved in barbecue and grill, and that involves, of course, lighting a fire. It depends on the kind of grill you have. We advise that you contact the local fire department. That, okay, I'm going to be at this event, I'm going to be involved in this. They will advise you. At times they will come to the site, but most times once you inform them, they will come and have a look at what you're doing and guide you. You don't want to involve them when there's a mishap in terms of fire outbreak or something. So inform them and let them know. However, the health inspector also, when we see applications and we feel, yes, this is like a high risk for a fire hazard, we send them an email. We let them know that, okay, there's going to be this event and this operator will be on site. The operator will be doing barbecues. We will maybe, we will try and describe barbecue and we let them know. So it's very important you take note of that. And also, if you're going to be on site, we do not want you to be involved in washing of utensils on site. So if you have single-use utensils, all well and good, much better. Bring your single-use utensils to site, or you have two sets of utensils. So if one is used or sold, then you can just exchange them, drop them aside, and bring the second batch out. So we advise that you have two sets of or bring extra sets of utensils, and yeah, you don't want to do any form of washing of plates on site. And then yeah, so also talking about the hand wash station, there are different types. I've talked about the improvised type. The white one is also used by many operators in Winnipeg here. I've seen so many operators use this at events. It's so user-friendly. It has a compartment where you have water, and the wastewater also goes back to a section of the compartment just designed for wastewater. And there's a black stump here. You just step on it and you get water out. It's easy to manage, easy to transport. And also at these events, of course, the event coordinators should be aware of in the regulation of having porta potties for, in case guests want to use the washroom. But don't forget, the hand wash station should also be around that porta potty, either within or outside. So this is also one of the events, and I thought I just should show you that. So we pay, attention to really hand hygiene in these events. The second thing is the hot holding and cold holding equipment. The food, when you go for your food safety training, we talk about the danger zone. I won't talk about that now. You should all know if you are food safety trained, but you want to keep your food products, hot above 60 degrees, and cold items, keep them cool, less than 5 degrees. And then this is very key because at these temperatures, there's a higher risk of pathogens multiplying and causing a problem to those that eat the food. So we look out for this at events when we are doing our inspections. And this slide also shows you, hot holding units. You can have this one where you have slices of your pizza. But very important thing I want to bring it to your notice is the source of heat. Usually you can have some flame under the hot holding units. I've been at events and operators struggle with this. Once the flame is blown out due to elements, wind in our environment, and we come and inspect, once the food item here is less than than 60, as is in the guideline, the food item most likely will be thrown out. So you have to maintain the temperature at above 60 degrees, and this is very important. And again, you don't want to overload the hot holding units. You don't want to, you are coming to serve rice or your special local dish. You don't want to feed it to the brim because there's a limit to how much heat can be transmitted through these hot holding units. And also you should have your thermometer around. So this helps you to monitor the temperature of the food you are trying to keep hot. So this is very key. Also keeping things cold. I've been at events. You should have your cooling units. If you are going to use ice packs or you want to keep them cold, you don't have perhaps power, you want to use ice packs. Now, we prefer ice packs, not ice cubes. Most people readily get ice cubes. If you're going to use ice cubes, it must have a drain. That's the cooling container should have a drain to drain the water. We don't want food items staying within a pool of cold water. So that's like a no-no, and the items will likely be discarded or classed as hazardous. So you want to use ice packs most frequently. And if you can rent a cooling van as well. I've seen this being done in many events in Winnipeg. Just rent a cooling van. I remember some operators got some products from Calgary, and we had to call their attention to it that either you keep this thing cold from Calgary rent a cooling van, or get a storage that can really tell you that and confirm that the temperature will be kept less than 5 degrees or kept frozen based on the products being preserved. So so these are just pictures showing cooling, and we're emphasizing keep things cold, and keep things that should be hot. And now this is also at one of our events. You should have thermometers. Make sure you have your products looking very good and kept warm. And this too really was very good. But just to draw attention to that, be careful on the quantity of food products you are keeping warm. At the last event, I noticed this camping gas flame, and that's very effective in keeping the hot holding units hot. But please don't overfill the pot or the holding unit with food products, because there's a limit to how much it can spread. So just talking about labeling, I won't dwell much on this slide, but if you're going to have a product, say you have like a African store, I will just say an African store, you have a special product that you are trying to sell, packaged by you at a permitted facility, you want to pay attention to labeling. So things about labeling is handled by CFIA, as the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. They handle labeling. They will tell you where to take your products to for sampling, to tell you how much of this, how much nutrients are there, the protein content, potassium content, if there's any allergen in your product, you should state it at in your labels. You don't want to get into some problems, someone reacting to your food product, and now you don't have a labeling to even show. If someone reacts to your product and it's stated clearly on your labeling, yeah, so you are like covered that it's stated in my labeling that it may contain this allergen, so but just pay attention to labeling. So let me move on. Yeah, now you as a food operator, you have to be food safety certified. So you should be a certified food and go for the certified food handler training. It's like the basic thing, the first requirement. And there are many sources of where you can get this training done. Of course, you can do it with Manitoba Health. But first, this will tell you about the causes of foodborne illnesses, how they come about. Then at this training, you will hear about the danger zone, talking about the temperature range by within which organisms multiply fastest. So all these ones will be discussed. You have how to store your food items safely. So you talk about storage and cleaning your surfaces and sanitizers. I know most operators come to events, they don't have their sanitizer already prepared. They don't even know that you should have a test strip to help you in diluting it. So all these things we class it as basic, that the food safety training or food handlers training should have. I mean, before you get your certificate, you should be aware of that. So like not knowing about that really it's not really a good argument. Now, this is our website. If you want to have a food safety training, click on this website, and you'll be linked to the Manitoba Health Food Safety Training Program. And we also have independent contractors that are involved in food safety training. So go to this link as well. There's a long list of contractors who have been approved to train operators in food safety. But I will talk about the ones we do at Manitoba Health. It lasts 5 years. So if you are trained, I mean, it's valid for 5 years, and yeah, it is not a health permit. Many people feel, oh, once you have this, you are good to go. You can go to an event, you can start catering, you can start selling your food product. No, it's not a health permit. So it's just the first requirement that, okay, you know about the basic rules in handling food, and that's the food handler certificate shown here on the slide. Now, I know there was a lot of talk about, okay, how to start up a business, how to set up a food business. That's a major presentation. That's for another day. We can't delve deep into that. But the Manitoba Agriculture, there's this link takes you there. They have just a list of things you should get to start your business, and we regulate a lot of the items there. But basic, if you want to do any business, not just limited to food, of course you want to register your business. So you can discuss with a lawyer or where you can get your business registered first, have a name and the rest. Then regarding the food items, then you can come to Manitoba Health or contact your health inspector, and we will guide you on the requirements. And once you have your food safety training certificate, that's like a very important step accomplished. The next thing is you want to get your business registered. And of course, come to us, fill the form. If you are not sure, send an email to the health protection unit, and a health inspector will respond to you and advising you on the steps. I've had so many of that coming. Whatever food business you want to have a food truck, you want to have a push cart, apart from being a caterer and all these things. If you are not sure, just send us an email and we would respond. But these are the links to Manitoba Agriculture. So that's not Manitoba Health, but these links actually speak well to having your business. So now it's like up to you guys. You want to have your food business going, send an email to Health Protection Unit. The admins will get the email, sort it out to the health inspector covering your area or your jurisdiction. Of course, you want to have an idea of where you have your permitted facility. And you cannot prepare food from your home. I've said that earlier on. You can't prepare food from your basement. It has to be a permitted facility, except it's a farmer's market and it's not a potentially hazardous food. Then Chelsea talked about that quite a lot. So contact the health inspector through this email, fill the registration form, have a clear idea of your menu. You don't want to start with a menu and start adding your menu. For example, you want to be a small scale producer. You now start with a limited menu, and within 1 week, you've extended that menu. Be sure of your menu. And if you need to increase or add to your menu list, contact the health inspector. We advise you and approve it. Okay. So once your health inspector is informed and you have a permitted facility, we schedule you for an inspection. We would of course check your address, find out where you are working out from is permitted. We may ask for extra documentation, for example, an agreement between you and the owner of the kitchen, confirmation of use documents, or you fill a questionnaire talking to us about your menu. And then also, but these are the basic steps to having a food business. Register your business, then contact Manitoba Health. Even just contact us, we will advise you on the next steps. Make sure you also have your food safety certification. Okay. And the guidelines there have, of course, all the key items you need to be aware of, which is a bit different from most of us, coming from other provinces. Even within Canada, there may be slight differences, but from other countries, yes. I'm Africa, from Nigeria, many things are different. So, but the guideline tells you the key things to pay attention to. And yeah, it's all about compliance to prevent being given a warning, or to prevent being given a ticket, or to prevent your items being discarded. It's all done to protect the public. And so we just want you to go through the guideline and make sure you are in compliance with all the items there. And if you have any questions, you can always contact same email, Health Protection Unit. This is the general phone number, and we're always willing to answer your questions. And I think I would stop there, and the floor is open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very, very, very much. This is so much appreciated. We've learned a lot from, in the past 40 minutes. We've learned a lot. And some of our questions have been answered. But yes, there are still a few questions, and I would run them by us as we go ahead. Please let's give a thumbs up or a clap for our inspectors for taking out time today to, speak to us about the guidelines, and especially with the topic food handler is not enough, because most times we think when we have the food handler certificate, we are good to run. In fact, we can open the biggest restaurants in Canada, but that's not always the case. So thank you very, very much. First question I have on the chat is, would you be sharing these slides with us? Are we able to get them?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you're recording it, so you have the slides. And yeah, if you want more details, I'm sure, Chelsea, we can get them a copy.
Yeah, we just have to speak with our managers. I know sometimes the government has like internal, external PowerPoints, but I'm sure we can get a copy for you guys. We'll
Okay.
speak with Natalie and follow up with you.
Okay, so if you're registered, if it's approved for us to share, we will send them via email to you. So I would go through a few of the other questions that I have that we probably didn't touch on. So we have information about, registering business. We have funding opportunities for new businesses, but I'm not sure if that is, within the scope of this workshop. But I saw something on resources, and I posted earlier from the Manitoba agricultural website. So maybe that might be of help to us. We have questions. Okay, so we already know what public health is about, so maybe not delve into that. But this one says, what registrations do you need to have as a distributor of a health product? So I don't know if that person is on call, but what kind of health products are you looking at? But if there's a general registration we should know about, and Victor and Chelsea? Is there?
Well, just as you said, I mean, health product is really broad. And that is not really linked to our department. What health product? Is it a cream? Is it a medication? I mean, that's a bit broad. So if you want to be more specific on what you're really talking about, but generally you have a product. I will limit it to food item. You have a special menu, like let's say chin chin, and you want to, or Zobo, you want to promote Zobo here. You first start as a small scale and you apply to us. You will make sure that you have a permitted facility. And but if you are importing items from outside Canada and they are special products, then you want to go through CFIE. They handle all forms of products coming in, and they have their own guidelines. So that's not really in our jurisdiction. I don't know, Chelsea, you want to add to that?
Yeah, we don't deal with health products, our department, so that I feel like that's more on a federal level. We deal more with anything food related is within our scope of work for permitting.
Mhm. And we're also, and this I spoke with Natalia earlier about this. I think we'll be having another session soon where we'll invite CFI in as well, and they can help, guide us in those other questions. One other question I have, very interesting one, is if I have my food handler certificate, can I open a grocery shop in my basement or in my garage? Is that something that is allowed, or what steps do we need to if we want to? Do we need to take care of if we need to?
I can take a shot at this one. So just bottom line, you wouldn't be able to with just a food handler certificate. So just as Victor touched on in the presentation, a food handler certificate is not equivalent to a health permit. So anytime you want to sell food to the public, from your home or anything like that, you actually still need to go through us. We actually don't usually permit in homes. You do need to follow our regulations. So there's a set of guidelines for like construction of a food business, what's required inside. So you actually need to get some type of permitting through the city of Winnipeg to sell food out of your home. But at the end of the day, you do need a health permit from us through Manitoba Health. So if you have questions about it, you could always submit a permit application form to us through our website, with details of what you want to do. And then we can go over it. You could speak with a public health inspector and they can give you more specific details for your business that way. But usually, no, unfortunately, home-based facilities are not common for permitting.
Okay, when they say like food, it might not be cooked food, it might be like groceries, like maybe if you're familiar with some of African food, maybe something like gari, or maybe something like Indomie, or just general food stuff. Would it be the same process?
Yeah,
It would still need to be
okay.
sold out of a permitted facility. But yeah, Victor, you could go ahead.
Yeah, it's you have to have a permitted facility, and also a lot of people forget that it has to do with zoning as well. You can't your residential area is not zoned for commercial kind of activities, so you have to be located in a zone linked, times commercial, where you can sell. So if you are going to be working out of your basement, first in Manitoba, it's not allowed. You have to have first located in a commercial area, then it has to be permitted, and that's what Chelsea talked about. You just sending your application, you sending your plan of how the plan will be reviewed. Even if it's you're just taking over, you do some renovations, sending a plan for that, but not in your basement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. My next question is, after having a food handler certificate and maybe getting a permit, is there any other certifications that one needs to have to operate a food business?
Well, it's quite easy. Once you have your food training certificate, and you have the right permits, approved by Manitoba Health, you are good to go. Now, if it comes to an event like a temporary foods, then you may apply for that specific permit. So because you have a permit in your facility, or you already say you applied and you have your food training and you are approved to sell out of a permitted facility. If you are going for an event and you're going to be preparing food at that event, you will require another permit. So your permit doesn't cover for all food-related activities. Yeah. But basically, once you have your food safety training and you have a health permit, there is a good place to start. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Another question I have is, do we need TFSE and health permit to operate at an event?
Yes.
So, yeah, Victor, you go ahead.
No, just because I talked about TFSCs, you need a
Yeah.
TFSC if you are going to be preparing potentially hazardous food. Now, if you are going to be at an event and what you are preparing is prepackaged, is low risk, is shelf stable, is not potentially hazardous, and of course you apply, you tell the health inspector, this is my menu, everything I'm preparing is shelf stable, it's already prepackaged at the facility, all I'm going to be doing is just to sell, I'm not going to be preparing food, then we will now determine that, okay, you don't need a permit, you are good to go. Since you are going to be just selling and I can see your menu, I can see your products, it's not potentially hazardous, you are good to go. And you keep your menu that way. You can't change your menu unless it's approved by a health inspector. At times, we see people who have been given the go-ahead to sell at events already because we class them as low risk and having shelf-stable products. But on the event day, we now see other extras added to it, other items, other food products that are putting hazardous, and that's really that's not acceptable. So yeah.
Okay, so we've mentioned potentially hazardous, and given that we're unique people, we have very diverse meals. The list you gave us earlier has food that are not so common to us, and in our kind of market or events, we bring our own food. So and that's one of the reasons why we also have people that are a little bit familiar with the kind of meals we have. So what items would you say in the African or Nigerian context serve as hazardous food? So maybe I should break it down a little bit more. So for instance, groceries like ogbono, um, vegetable, like ugu leaves, maybe like topiko, those kind of sweets that is already made, or something like a kilishi, or something like beans, not cooked grain, or gari, or ilubo, or pomo, the regular pomo, that you buy and then you go and cook. Are this kind of meals hazardous?
Oh, okay, yeah, let me come in here. Yes, most of the things you mentioned, yes, like ofada soup with chopped shaki, all these African delicacy. Once it has meat in it, it is potentially hazardous.
Okay.
It's potentially hazardous. Now, if you have even veggies, ewedu, okra, begiri, all these items because I was at this, the last event, that was very good. A lot of Nigerians brought out their dishes, local dishes, Yeah, but all those items, they are all potential hazardous. That's why we required everyone to have applied so that the health inspector can assess this. And it's very important, like even jollof rice. At times we based on, the practice, of serving that food in events back home in Nigeria. You just have them in coolers, but here you have to keep them at that temperature. That's just what is required because there's a higher risk of pathogens growing there. So yeah, most of the like kilichi, you mentioned kilichi. Kilichi is meat, but is dehydrated meat. It's so dry that the water activity is so low. So at times it may be shelf stable, But the very best thing to do is to make sure that product is assessed. Talk to CFIA, go to a lab, they will tell you what is there, and they will tell you this is shelf stable or not. I think it's commonly called, I think, like beef jerky or at times, yeah. So it's dry, and but you want to be sure, you want to protect your business and you want to protect yourself. So just go through CFIE, have a documentation that it has low water activity and it is shelf stable. In that way, your business is protected from any litigation. You are protected from any litigation in case of any problem. And if you are not sure, as I said, keep it hot or keep it cold. In that way, you are sure that your products are okay, are good to go.
Thank you very much. I have ginger, soya beans. Do they fall under the scope? And also, what agency is responsible for importation apart from CFIA?
Yeah, ginger, and like you go to most grocery stores, you see, is it the powdered ginger or the fresh ginger? If it's the dried powdered ginger, that is it definitely has little water activity. It's dry, it's likely to be shelf stable. If it's being produced by you, I'm sure you will have gone through CFIA and done an assessment of the water activity and the content. Particularly if you want to sell it on a larger scale. So yeah, soya beans, make sure whatever you're bringing is assessed. You want to make sure that you pass these items through the testing. Well, that's not our department, that's CFIA, so I don't want to talk much about that. But anything you're not sure of, contact the health inspector, and on one-on-one basis, we will advise you on your menu.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is, and I think you've answered that on crayfish and dry fish. So, crayfish and dry fish, do they fall under hazardous or non-hazardous?
Chelsea, what you want to try this? So I'm not biased. I seem to know this food. So let's have your view.
No, you can answer it. I'm
Okay.
familiar with crayfish and dried fish, like because usually they're bought dry, right? They're shelf stable. Essentially, like that slide that I did go through it pretty fast. I skimmed through a lot of the details on the ones that I said were a bit more scientific in detail. If these foods like crayfish and dry fish are being cooked into stews or rice or anything like that, then at that point they become hazardous because those foods need to be heated or kept hot held or cold held, like Victor stated. However, if you're, say, like Dino's has crayfish and dry fish like you buy off of the shelf, not refrigerated, those are lower risk in that state because they're dried. They don't have that water activity like Victor spoke about. So if you're just selling those items pre-packaged off of the shelf just as is, as a market vendor, then those would be considered low risk. But once you start cooking them, putting them into these meals, that's when they become high risk. So that's kind of the best way to explain that.
Okay. My next question is, what's the process for getting a permit to grill on an open fire in a public space?
Okay. Yes, I talked about grilling and barbecue. First, when it comes to fire, be very careful. But in terms of the food you are preparing, you need to apply. You can't, if you are doing your own barbecue and you're serving just yourself and your family or your friends, just you're just going as a group, like what you do when you go on vacation or somewhere, yeah, that's fine. But once you're going to be selling to the public, then you have to apply. We need to know your setup. We want to make sure that to be able to sell to a public or even suya, you must be linked to a facility. So you can't just have suya by the roadside. barbecuing, you must be linked to a facility. But now let me just clarify for suya. Now, you may not know there's like a push cart. You can apply, you can try and find out how to, if you want to get a push cart, and in your push cart, you want to be grilling. And now, if you have apply for a push cart, we'll tell you the whole process to get a push cart. You need to get certified. You have to pass through the fire department at times. You need to go through IT&S. IT&S is another agency that will check the electrical connections if you are going to have a fridge or any electrical component of to that grill. And the fire department, as I said, will have come to assess what you have for grilling. Then the next thing, you have your push cart. Your push carts are always linked to facilities or commissaries. So having a push cart, we didn't talk much about push carts in this presentation, but having a push cart, you must be linked to a commissary where at the end of the day, after working, selling, or grilling your suya, you must go there and pack or store your items in that commissary. So you're not allowed to store the meat you will use for your suya in your home. No, you must be linked to that facility. But once you have your push cart linked to the facility, you've applied to us, we've worked with you on meeting all the requirements for push cart, then you're good to go. You have a radius of 50 kilometers from your base when you have a push cart. And now, so with that, you can safely barbecue around with your push cart, because there are requirements for having a push cart. You must have an overhead cover and the rest. So we will walk you through having a push cart. You will have submitted a plan of your push cart, what components are there, and we will have guided you through the process before you finally start off. Now with that push cart, I'm sure you can grill around, you can barbecue, you can do your suya, because you will have met all the requirements. I don't know, Chelsea, whether you want to add anything to that regarding push carts, really?
Nothing regarding push carts. That's just like one avenue for grilling. Temporary food service establishments, like Victor spoke about throughout his part of the presentation, is another way that you can do outdoor cooking. At the end of the day, everything has to be prepared from a commercial kitchen. So if you're doing any type of service of food on site, just know you need a pre-existing health permit linked with either like a push cart has its own permit, or if you have, say, a restaurant where you prep your suya and then you want to actually grill and serve it on site, then you would need that permit, and then you would need a temporary food service establishment setup, just like in those photos. So there's a bit of guidelines with that. I know there's a lot of information coming today, and there's different permits and different policies and procedures for things, but once you're one-on-one with a health inspector, it's a bit more easier to clarify those things. So you can always send questions into our line, phone our number, and then have a health inspector call you if you ever have questions.
Hey, thank you very much. So I have one more, quite a number of other questions, but the next one is, and we are at 1 o'clock already, so we're running, I don't know how many minutes more we have that we can get off you to be able to answer the other few questions. Can we do like 10, 15 minutes extra? Thank you very much. So the next question is, can a basement be registered for production of baked goods?
So that question is similar to the grocery store question. It's not impossible. I would just say it takes a bit more steps, because when you open a commercial kitchen in Manitoba, you have to follow our regulation and guidelines for construction. So there's specific things such as like having cold flooring, um, having proper lighting, just a few things that you actually need to follow. So baking in your basement, you would need to meet our regulation of having a commercial kitchen and setup in your basement. With home kitchens, there are a couple in the city. You would need certain zoning permits from the city of Winnipeg, but you also have to have a separate entrance and bathroom for that part of your home, because it has to be essentially a part of your home that we can enter without going through your actual home. So there's a bit more process for actually opening up, say, a commercial kitchen in your home. It is not impossible, but there's just some guidelines that you have to follow for opening that in your home. So, as stated earlier, you could always send in a registration form with your home address, your menu, what you want to propose to do, and we can speak to you about how you could actually set that up within your home and what permitting you require for that to happen.
Thank you very much. The next one says, can we use a commercial kitchen's health permit number if we don't have one?
I'm not sure, Victor, if you want to answer, but the quick answer is no. You can't transfer health permits, and you can't use somebody else's health permit for an event. However, if you have a restaurant, for example, if I have a restaurant that is permitted, there are some things called ghost kitchens inside of restaurants. So Victor had a business and he wanted to use my kitchen to prepare foods. That is okay. There can be two permits that exist inside of one commercial facility. There can actually be X number of permits that can exist within a restaurant facility, as long as you guys can show us that, yeah, there are separate times you're cooking in there or separate sections within that kitchen that me and Victor can both run our businesses adequately in there. We can issue multiple permits to one commercial kitchen. So a lot of churches or community centers have a health permit because it is a commercial kitchen, but then small scale operators work out of there. So those are people who might use that kitchen once a week to make like baked goods or cook food and serve takeout, things like that. So there are options to getting your own permit within one kitchen.
Thank you very much. So, I would give opportunity for those that would like to ask their questions by themselves, just show by raising your hand, and then I would unmute you and you can ask your question. So we have the first person. Please unmute and go ahead.
Okay. Hi. My name is Bibi. I would like to ask that if I apply for a CFI license and I'm approved, can I? Okay, let me start from the beginning. So I had spoken to a health inspector, and she told me, so I said I was going to get a CFI license because I was at the point of registering for it. And I told her that I would be purchasing these items by myself from Nigeria. And then I'll be bringing into the country because they are into two categories, frozen items and then dried items. And she told me that I would need to get the receipts of purchase of the items. And then she also told me, secondly, that it was impossible for me to import these items myself. So I'm not sure if she understands me or if she's the one who is not really knowledgeable about the process. Because what I know from having a CFI license is if you're because I've called CFI on several occasions, and if you are importing items for sale, you can import the items, they will be inspected at the borders, customs, whatever, as long as they are accepted and I bring them in safely. I'll be using a refrigerated trucks and all of that. It is okay. And then I'll be using a commercial kitchen as well. Then it is okay for me to sell those items to the public as long as I have, the location is inspected and all of that. But what she said is confusing me. So I would like to get clarification on that. Sorry for the long episode.
Okay, yeah, thank you for your question, really. And I know Natalie, as you said, Natalie mentioned that she's bringing someone from CFIA to come and really talk about that. Our department, we don't handle importation, we don't handle bringing things from Africa. No, we don't do all that. when we do our calls or we're on the field and we encounter cases like that having to do with importation of food, we refer to CFIA directly. So yeah, it's only CFIA that can answer those questions really. Yeah, so I'm sorry that's really the answer I can give.
So as a continuing part to that, I have actually asked CFIA that I was told I need an invoice. And they told me that that's not their department. I have to speak to public health. In order to maybe not elongate this, is it possible I ask the question maybe after or something? Because
Okay.
CFIA told me it's not their bits.
Okay, Chelsea, do you want to add something to the answer I gave, really? Yeah.
Because you're looking to sell food that's been imported and approved by CFIA, right? That's my understanding of what you,
raw,
yeah.
yes.
So because us and CFIA are two different organizations, which has been clarified in this presentation, we, like, part of our regulation is when, for example, when we go into a commercial facility and they're selling food, we just have to know that that food has been obtained from an approved source. So as long as you have kind of like a receipt, or I don't know how CFIA will give you like a confirmation that this is approved once they've inspected it, to us, that's as far as our inspections go. So that food can be sold to the public or cooked, etc., as long as it comes from an approved source through your commercial facility. So that's the most that we would look at in the field. I don't know about, there's no invoices that we would give. So maybe there might just be, I feel like, a miscommunication with CFIA or with ourselves too. But you could always send that into our line, like via email, to the health protection unit, because then you can get a public health inspector that is in your work area, like where your address of your commercial facility is, to confirm that with you. But as long as it's approved by CFIA, then that's as far as we go. We'd say, yeah, that's completely fine to be sold in your commercial facility.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are almost at the end of the at the end of the 15 minutes you gave us, but I have a question here. So baking, our question is if baking is allowed from home to a market, that outside a market, can she also bake from home and sell to the public, or does it have to be in a commercial kitchen before selling to the public? And is food handler enough to do that?
Okay. So now, when the idea of a farmer's market is to encourage like local content. So when it comes to farmers markets, generally we are not so strict, and that's why some items are allowed to be prepared from home. The idea is, okay, let's encourage this operator, start your business low scale, let people know you are the farmers market. And over time, we start talking to the operator. Okay, I think it's time you get a permitted facility. It's time you expand. It's time that's the idea of the farmers market. So when it comes to cake, yeah, there are different kind of cakes and different kind of is it butter icing? Is it, you use whipped cream? So now all those other things now help us classify that product or what you are baking. Is it high risk or low risk? And based on that, we advise, okay, this is a bit high risk, you will need a permit, or you can prepare it from home, or this is low risk. If it's just straightforward cake or cookies, okay, you can do that in your home, but there are times when you apply, as I said, it starts by, you're not sure, call the health inspector or apply, state your menu, be specific on what you're going to be preparing. At times, the health inspector will look at it on a case-by-case basis. At times, we will discuss with other colleagues and find out, okay, is this safe to be prepared at home or not? And there are times we allow some kind of cake, particularly the coating, the menu, whatever is inside, that's good to go. It's low risk and it can really be prepared from home. And there are times we've said a no to the operator that no, this has to be prepared at a permitted facility. Yeah. But as I said, it's just to encourage local content. Start small, and over time, the idea is to be from a permitted facility.
And on that note, we say thank you so very much to Victor and Chelsea. You've done so amazing. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. And we appreciate your departments for taking out time to talk to us today about expectations and guidelines and ensuring that we are all safe, because at the end of the day, if one person gets sick, the whole country can get sick. And we've gotten that from COVID already. So we need to be very careful as to what we bring to the market or how we start business, especially when it's food related. That's where we'll be drawing the curtains today. If I get more information on the slides, if you've registered, we will send them over to you. If you have more questions, the email address is there, healthprotection@gov.nb.ca, and the phone number is 204-945-4204, and they are able to help us answer all our questions. Thank you very much. If there is no other comments from the chat, we would call it a day. And once we have a date for, yes, this Zoom is being recorded, and then we would upload it on YouTube and send the link. If you have registered, you would also get the link to the recording so we can watch and learn. I took some notes while this was going on, and I'm sure every other person did as well. So thank you again very much. We'll let people know when we'll be having the next one, particularly also with the CFIA department, and just so that we are on the safe side of the law. We are here to make money, we're not getting into trouble, and education resources are there, and personnel are available as well to help us go through this system seamlessly. Thank you very much, and have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For the class, thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I know there's a couple people left in here, but before I take off, I just wanted to say this is a great session, and looking forward to the next one if Victor and I are coming back presenting on it. But I think this is necessary, like within, like across Manitoba with different like communities and culture groups. It's
Yeah.
awesome. So
Please. And I
yeah.
must say, I think this is the first time this is happening. I don't know for you guys, but I tried to sample within the community if we've ever had, a session like this, and the answer was no. So it was very welcome. About 100 people registered, and I got some feedback to say some might still be at work, I might not be able to join in, so they really wanted the recording. So, I mean, thank you so very much. You guys made it happen.
Oh, thank you for setting
Thank
it all
you.
up. That's you.
And it took us about
You
3
did the
months.
job.
Thank you. Because we started this conversation sometime in July or June. Here we are today.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've presented to the Sikh community before one of their large events last
Mhm.
year,
Mm.
just specifically on TFSE. So
Oh,
that was like a very small group, but you know what? I think if we could do these anytime, the more information out there, the more people understand, because it's confusing.
It
Even
is.
before being a health inspector, I wouldn't have known all of this. So
Hmm.
I could only imagine.
And I think the education is, or the publicity mostly is on food handler certificate. So most people get that and they think, oh, I'm good to go. Really.
Mhm.
And when you tell them, do you know about this? Some questions came. I was like, what's health inspection units? Like, what's the health unit? Do we even have something like that? You know,
Mhm.
and they're hoping to start business with just the certificate, because even that, so I think the education needs to start from even that grassroots, maybe the department handling the food certification and other agencies doing it should let people know that this is just one piece of, the whole thing. Still get in touch with folks at the health unit so that they can guide you properly, because most people just have that and they think, yes, we're good. Yeah.
100%. That is very common. So that's some feedback we could bring to Natalie as well too. I know we are working on a lot of advocacy work because people don't even generally know what a public health inspector is, and that's at no one's fault. So that's a big thing right now in our unit, is just advocacy and just getting our job out there and what people need. So yeah, this is a really good start.
Thank you. And one thing I also noticed is there's a very thin line between having cultural events and, like, in my community, we haven't had a market ever until I started that. And because we are not really used to going to regular markets here, we didn't really know how to go about it. So it was almost like, oh, this is a community event. Do we need to talk to the health inspection unit? Because usually we are used to having community event back to back and we don't involve you guys. So why now? So we also need some sort of clarity around there to say, if we're having this event, though it's within our community, do we still need to get you involved? Because if we didn't call this a market, we would never have thought to call we didn't even know there was a public health inspection unit. So until we said it was a market, I'm like, okay, let's see what the regulations are around this. And that was when information became available.
Yeah, just contact the health protection unit. And as I said, we will look at it on a case-by-case basis. We will assess it if it's a community event, because there are some events we feel, oh, this is just a community event. This is a church event.
Okay.
This is and there are guidelines for that. I'm say, okay, don't worry. You guys, we ask a few questions, check up with a few things. If we know the menu, we'll ask questions on the menu. And so I think it's always good to send emails to health protection units, and will definitely be of help. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll let you go now.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Nice to
I'll
meet
circle
you.
back by email with the other things.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sounds
Have a
good.
good day.
Bye.
Goodbye.